Millions of people have seen Yakushima without knowing its name. Its moss-covered, ancient cedar forest is widely said to have inspired the forest scenes in the animated film Princess Mononoke, and the island became one of Japan's very first UNESCO World Heritage Sites back in 1993. It looks, in photographs, like a place nobody actually lives. So here is the real question. Could you buy a house there? Not visit for a hiking weekend. Own a piece of it? The honest answer is yes, technically, but the details of how and why reveal a very different island than the one in the postcards. Yakushima sits about 60 kilometers off the southern tip of Kyushu, administratively part of Kagoshima Prefecture. Its population has fallen from around 24,000 people in 1960 to roughly 11 to 12,000 today, a decline that tracks the same rural exodus reshaping towns across Japan, just on an island instead of a mainland valley. About a fifth of Yakushima's land area is registered as UNESCO World Natural Heritage, protecting the primeval cedar forest at its center, including the Jaman-sugi, a single tree that some estimates place at well over 2,000 years old, reachable only by a 4 to 5 hour hike in. The forest itself holds close to 1,900 plant species and subspecies, a striking number of them found nowhere else on Earth, which is a large part of why UNESCO protected it in the first place. That single geological and ecological fact, an ancient, protected forest ringed by a shrinking population, is the whole story of the island compressed into one sentence. Japan places no general restriction on foreigners buying property, and Yakushima does have real listings, houses, and land advertised through the same akiya-bank style platforms used across rural Japan. But island listings carry a detail mainland buyers do not always expect. Many are explicitly restricted to people who are actually planning to move in, or who have moved in within the past several years, rather than a distant owner. This is not a legal barrier for foreigners specifically. It is a residency condition written by an island desperate to reverse its own population decline, not interested in selling a vacation trophy to someone who will visit once a year. Buyers should also expect the same 2026-era paperwork now required of any non-resident purchasing property in Japan, including the post-purchase government filing that took effect for property acquisitions from April 2026. None of that makes buying impossible. It makes clear that Yakushima is not selling houses so much as screening for neighbors. Assume the paperwork goes through. Life on the actual island looks nothing like a hiking trip photo gallery. Yakushima is one of the wettest inhabited places in Japan, with roughly 4,500 millimeters of rain a year along the coast and up to 8,000 in the mountainous interior, which is part of why the forest looks the way it does, and part of why buildings, wood, and metal fixtures age faster here than almost anywhere else in the country. Leaving the island for anything beyond a day trip takes real planning. The fast hydrofoil ferry to Kagoshima runs about 2 hours, the car ferry closer to 4, several times a day, not on demand. Daily life leans on what the island itself produces. Flying fish is a genuine local staple, not a tourist gimmick, and construction near the protected core zone answers to conservation rules that a typical rural town does not have to consider at all. Specialist healthcare, large format shopping, and anything resembling a big city convenience are all a ferry ride away, which is a very different calculation from an akiya on the Kyushu mainland where a car alone usually solves that problem. This is a real, functioning community, not a movie set. It is just a community built entirely around living next to a forest the rest of the world has agreed to protect. So, can you buy a house on Yakushima? Yes. Should you? Is a much narrower question than the UNESCO plaque suggests. This suits someone who wants to live beside genuine, ancient nature badly enough to accept near-constant rain, a multi-hour ferry ride for ordinary errands, and a town that would rather vet a future neighbor than process a quick sale. It does not suit an investor looking for a flip, a buyer wanting a low-maintenance weekend retreat, or anyone who has not budgeted for how aggressively that rainfall ages a wooden building. The forest that makes Yakushima famous is precisely what makes living there demanding, and the island's own listings are written to filter for people who understand that trade before they sign anything. For the right person, that filter is not an obstacle. It is the whole point. If this made Japan's empty house market a little clearer, subscribe to Akiya Handbook, the channel that explains how Japan's cheap houses actually work, honestly, and without selling you anything. There is also a free guide waiting in the description, the IKEA Buyer's Starter Guide, How to Buy a Cheap House in Japan Without Getting Burned. 11 chapters on the truth about so-called free houses, the hidden costs, and who should not buy. No hype, and completely free. The link is below. Thanks for watching.